Your thoughts are not just thoughts, they are physical events that are rewriting your brain every single second. Right now, beneath your calm face, beneath the quiet act of listening, billions of neurons are firing in complex sequences, like constellations blinking into existence. Every spark changes something, a connection strengthens, another weakens, a network shifts. You are being rebuilt in real time, and you don't even notice. People talk about personality as if it's fixed, as if who you are today is stamped, sealed, unchangeable. But this belief is a myth created by the brain itself, because the truth is far too unsettling. The truth is that the you think you are is dissolving and reforming every day. Your mental patterns are not permanent unless you repeatedly give them life. Neuroplasticity is not some soft, inspiring idea. It is a ruthless biological mechanism. Your brain adapts to whatever you feed it, whether those thoughts elevate you or destroy you. Think a fearful thought often enough, your brain wires itself for fear. Think a hateful thought often enough, your brain wires itself for bitterness. Think an empowering thought consistently, and you slowly sculpt a new internal landscape. But here's the part no motivational speaker tells you. Your brain does not prefer positive change. It prefers familiar change. It reinforces whatever you repeat, even if those thoughts poison you. Because for your brain, familiarity feels like safety, and safety feels like survival. That's why people cling to beliefs that hurt them. That's why they replay childhood wounds. That's why they stay trapped in loops of self-doubt or self-hatred. Not because it's true, not because it's destiny, but because the brain rewired itself around those thoughts years ago, and now they feel like home. Think about this. The brain of a child who grows up hearing things like, "You're not enough," "You always fail," "Be quiet," or "You're a problem," doesn't just feel hurt emotionally. It physically forms circuits around those messages. The structure shifts. Connections strengthen in the direction of insecurity, hypervigilance, fear, or shame. This is not psychology. This is biological wiring. But here's the twist. When that child grows up, they assume the inner voice they carry is their personality. They don't realize it's architecture, not identity. You aren't born with self-doubt. You practice it. You aren't born with overthinking. You rehearse it. You aren't born with fear of failure. Someone or something wired it into you, and your brain obeyed. Now here's the thought that should stop your breath for a moment. If repeated negativity can physically reshape your brain, then so can repeated strength, repeated courage, repeated belief, repeated clarity. Your brain does not care what story you feed it. It will build whichever one you repeat. Most people don't know this, but when you visualize something, your brain begins to fire the same neural patterns as if the event were actually happening. Imagine practicing confidence in your mind. The circuits for confidence strengthen. Imagine rehearsing calmness, the stress circuits weaken. If your brain reacts to imagined fear the same way it reacts to real danger, then every moment you replay an anxious scenario, even if it never happens, you are carving those circuits deeper. You are preparing your brain for a disaster that may not exist. You are wiring yourself for a life you don't want. The darkness in this truth is powerful. Your brain is always sculpting you, but not always in your favor. And the longer you run a negative pattern, the stronger it becomes. That's why change feels hard. You're not fighting laziness. You're fighting biology. But biology is not destiny. Because here is the hopeful side of this same truth. Your brain rewires whenever you choose something different. Every time you interrupt an anxious thought, a tiny pathway weakens. Every time you resist an old trigger, your emotional circuits change. Every moment you focus on gratitude, even briefly, your prefrontal cortex grows stronger. Every time you speak to yourself with compassion instead of cruelty, your brain begins to prune the old wiring. Neuroscientists call this process synaptic pruning. Your brain literally cuts away old circuits, the ones you stop using. Meaning, you can dismantle an old version of yourself simply by starving the patterns that built it. And at the same time, you can build a new identity by choosing patterns that align with the person you want to become. You are not stuck, you are simply wired, and wiring can be changed. But here's the truth most people run away from. Rewiring your mind is not a moment of inspiration. It is a ritual of repetition. Daily, deliberate, intentional, because your brain is always adapting. And if you don't guide it, it will adapt to whatever chaos surrounds you. This means your environment rewires you, your habits rewire you, your relationships rewire you, your entertainment rewires you, your inner dialogue rewires you, even your silence rewires you. You are constantly being shaped, either consciously or accidentally. Now imagine this. 2 futures exist within your mind right now. One version of you is built on the thoughts you have consistently practiced. The fears, the doubts, the worries, the insecurities. Another version of you exists in the circuitry that you haven't strengthened yet. The confidence you haven't rehearsed. The discipline you haven't repeated. The courage you haven't practiced. Which version wins? The one you feed more. Your brain is a mirror reflecting your patterns, not your potential. Potential is infinite. Patterns are chosen. This is the part where people usually ask how long it takes to rewire the brain. But that's the wrong question. The real question is how willing you are to repeat the thoughts that shape the person you want to become. Because your brain is listening. Every second, every minute, every thought, every choice, every story you tell yourself. The greatest tragedy is that people underestimate their ability to change, because they overestimate the permanence of their past. But you are not your past. You are the pathways your past created, and pathways can be rewritten at any age, at any moment, at any stage of your life. The science is undeniable. Stroke victims relearn movement, trauma survivors calm an overactive amygdala. People with anxiety retrain their threat responses. Meditators grow thicker prefrontal cortices. Musicians expand auditory regions. New habits shift dopamine patterns. New beliefs reshape emotional networks. Your brain is not a prison. It is proof that change is always physically possible. The only question that remains is this: if your thoughts are sculpting your future self every day, what are you sculpting? And who do you want to become? Because right now, in this very moment, a new pathway is forming, a new circuit is strengthening, a new identity is being built, and the construction begins with this thought. But maybe the real question isn't about who you want to become. Maybe the real question is this: who is shaping you when you aren't paying attention? Because while you consciously sculpt your mind with intentional thoughts, something else is sculpting it in the background, silently, constantly, powerfully. Your environment, every room you walk into, every person you talk to, every video you watch, every fear you rehearse, every notification that steals your attention, every late-night scroll session that buries your mind under noise. Your brain is absorbing all of it, wiring itself around it, adapting automatically, whether you like it or not. Think about that for a moment. You're not just shaping your brain is also shaped by the world you consume. If you surround yourself with negativity, your brain sharpens its circuits for negativity. If you surround yourself with meaningless dopamine hits, your brain loses the ability to find joy in anything deeper. Your brain becomes skilled at whatever you feed it. And sometimes, that's the scariest truth of all, because most people aren't shaping their minds, they're surrendering them to habits, to distractions, to emotional patterns that feel familiar even when they're destructive. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your neural conditioning. That is why someone can say, "I want to be confident," yet rehearse insecurity 100 times a day. Or say, "I want peace," while replaying stress like a broken soundtrack. Or say, "I want to change," while returning to the same painful thoughts out of habit. They're not wrong or weak or flawed, they're simply wired for a version of themselves they no longer want. And unless that wiring is challenged, intentionally, consistently, courageously, it stays. The truth is harsh. Your comfort zone isn't comfortable, it's familiar. And the brain loves the familiar because it saves energy. Let's go deeper, darker, into the mechanics of this. Your brain runs on prediction. It loves to know what comes next, even if what comes next is pain. If your past was filled with anxiety, your brain predicts anxiety. If your past was filled with doubt, your brain predicts doubt. If your past was filled with chaos, your brain prepares for chaos before it even happens. This is why some people panic when life gets peaceful. Their brain isn't wired for calm, it's wired for survival. But neuroplasticity doesn't care. It doesn't judge. It simply rewires itself according to the dominant pattern. Your thoughts don't stay thoughts. They become templates, rules, automatic responses. Your present reality is running on old neural software, sometimes written years ago by a version of you that didn't know any better. So how do you change it? You begin by becoming aware of the subtle patterns you didn't even know were shaping you. The way you talk to yourself, the emotional tone you live in, the stories you tell about your past, the fears you practice without noticing, the people whose energy becomes the background noise of your mind, the dreams you shrink because your brain predicts failure before you even start. Awareness is the scalpel that begins the transformation. Then comes intention, a decision. A moment when you say, I am no longer building the same version of myself. And from that moment on, every thought becomes a brick. Every emotion becomes mortar. Every moment of self-control becomes a reinforcement beam. Every small mental victory becomes structural change. You don't change your brain through intensity. You change it through repetition. Slowly, the old pathways weaken. Slowly, the new ones strengthen. Slowly, your brain stops predicting your past and begins predicting your potential. This is the silent revolution inside you, the one nobody sees, the one nobody applauds, the one that takes place in private, in the quiet moments, when your mind whispers, you could be more than this, let me take you even deeper. There are moments in life, rare, intense, defining moments, when neuroplasticity spikes. Moments of emotional shock, moments of heartbreak, moments of loss, moments of breakthrough, moments when the ground beneath your identity cracks open. During these moments, your brain becomes soft clay again. It rewires faster, deeper, more dramatically. This is why after a tragedy, people are never the same. Not because life changed, but because their brain changed. And this is also why after a profound realization, a moment of clarity, or a powerful shift in perspective, life feels different. Neural circuits have been rearranged. Your brain is always trying to match your inner world to your outer one. When your inner world shifts, your outer world can no longer stay the same. Now let's talk about something most people never consider. Identity plasticity. Just like habits, identity itself is also wired through repetition. If you constantly say, I am shy, your brain wires for shyness. If you constantly say, I am unlucky, your brain looks for proof. If you constantly say, I can't, your brain builds walls where the door could have been. But if you begin saying, I'm learning, I'm improving, I'm evolving, your brain adapts to that narrative instead. Identity is the most powerful neural loop in the human mind and the most changeable. You are not stuck with the default version of yourself. You are not frozen in the story you grew up with. You are not confined to your past wiring. You are the author, the editor, and the final draft. Let me leave you with a truth most people never hear but desperately need. The next version of you already exists inside your neural circuitry. You just haven't activated it yet.